Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So thanks for joining us today. You are all on mute right now, but we will have some time for Q&A. So please feel free to either chat your questions in the chat box or save them up for the end, and you can unmute yourself and we can chat a little bit more. But my name is Lexi. I'm the Director of Outreach at KGI, and I'm happy to introduce our Associate Dean, Dr. Orum, who is going to share more information about the PharmD program. And so she'll go through the presentation, but again, like I said, please do feel free to either chat your questions or save them up, and we will be sure to get to them. So thank you all for joining. And for anyone who missed it, if you didn't have a chance to register for this event, if you could just chat me your name and email and any other information that you might want to share with me about your interest in our PharmD program, that would be much appreciated. So Dr. Orum, you can take it away.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. I really appreciate it. And I'm always excited to talk about the PharmD program and just really excited about the profession. And I think that at KGI, we've created a really unique and innovative program that is distinctive from other schools. And I'm not putting them down, but I'm just shouting the praises of our program. And I'm just happy that you joined us this afternoon. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So these are slides, and I just want to, and one of the things I love about this slide, we have, I'm sure you realize it, we have a really great admissions team, and they make sure that we have all sorts of resources. So when we talk about the program, we also talk about other programs. But what I love about this slide so much is it shows other programs, and this I think is still changing. There's still other updates to this. But what I like about it, you see the Doctor of Pharmacy, the PharmD over here in this kind of golden color, but there's a lot of interaction between the PharmD and so MBS to some extent, because some of our students do projects with the MBS students, the Doctor of Pharmacy students, some of them do projects and what we call interprofessional education. We'll talk about that a little bit later, with the genetic students, the genetic counseling students, and the GDA students. Some of our newer programs that are in development are having a lot of interaction with these, with the pre-PA certificate and the post-baccalaureate medical certificate. And we all have summer programs. So even though I'm primarily talking about the Doctor of Pharmacy program today, I just want to encourage you to check our website to hear more details about our summer programs. We have great summer programs designed for you to kind of see what it's like in our, and so it's a great experience. And so I know that you must already have that information, but I just want to put a plug in for it because it really does help you get a sense of what it's like. I can talk about it, but it's nice to have that experience. And then in those summer programs, you have interaction with other faculty members and also with other students, our students, and it's really exciting. And so last year was a great year for our summer programs. And so we're looking for the same thing this year. So if you think about it and you see a prep program, a pre-pharmacy program, that's the one that most closely aligns with Doctor of Pharmacy, but there are a number of other programs that I would encourage you to take a look at. So anyway, what we'll talk about today primarily is the Doctor of Pharmacy degree. And if I'm sure you've done your homework, this looks like a very focused group, is that the Doctor of Pharmacy degree is the entry-level degree for pharmacy practice. There's no longer a Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy that will be recognized for pharmacy practice. You may be able to get a Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Sciences, but you're not a practicing pharmacist as a result of that. Our program is for individuals who want to do the practice of pharmacy. And I didn't talk about myself too much, but I am a pharmacist by profession. So I am a pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for decades. And as you can tell, I'm still really excited about it. I still love it. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life because you can do so much more with pharmacy than just filling prescriptions. So if you have that in your mind, I'm hopeful that we can have a little dialogue today about a lot of the things that pharmacists are doing. And now you don't even have to wait to become a pharmacist. A lot of our pharmacy students are out there on the front line. Some of them are giving COVID-19 vaccines. A number of our students have done testing. They're developing programs for communities to try to make sure that the people who are not able to get the vaccine are able to get access. So I'm really looking forward to telling you about some things that our students are doing. But in our program, our overview, it's really designed to provide for the pharmacy education. And the focus is first the individual patient. The patient always comes first. And this is what you'll notice, it doesn't say customer, right? That's old terminology. Your patient could be a patient in the hospital. It might be somebody who lives in a long-term care, a nursing home facility. So it could be somebody who comes into the pharmacy where you're working, or maybe the pharmacy that you own. So we're really excited that our focus is patients. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on, because it puts us on par with other health professionals. I mentioned at the outset that pharmacists do not just count pills and pour and fill prescriptions. We are really members of the healthcare team. And this is why our program really emphasizes a lot of interprofessional education, communication, and how to do conflict resolution with the patient at the center, because we have a vital role to play in the welfare and the benefit of the patients. We also are members of the healthcare system. A lot of our pharmacy faculty, when I talk about our certificate programs a little later, are in healthcare management. We have a pharmacy faculty member who's in charge of medical and clinical affairs. That's a system. So these are individuals who develop studies, they make recommendations. Sometimes they are the CEOs and executives responsible for making the decisions. And then also, of course, the bioscience industry, which is why we have such a great fit at KGI, because KGI gives that opportunity for our students to have activities and to learn about bioscience, biotechnology. They can collaborate with other students. They've done a lot of other projects. So as I mentioned before, our focus is interprofessional collaboration, systemic problem solving, so systematic problem solving. And so this means that you'll have to do a lot of work by yourself, but you'll also need to be able to work in teams, because we'll need to understand what it is to interact with a team, to speak up and say, I think that we need to look at this question. Did anyone consider this? Or how do we manage that? That kind of thing. So you can't, if you have great memorization skills, that's wonderful, but you'll also have to will help you develop your communication skills and interactive skills. And of course, the safe, efficient, and ethical use of technology and biotechnology. All right, so that's a big one. That was a mouthful. But as pharmacists, we have access to a lot of medical records. And we have access to those records to be able to provide care based on the patient's medical records. It's not for us to call our friends and say, you will not believe we came in the pharmacy today, right? It's not the ethical use of it, right? So we are really focused on the ethical use of technology and biotechnology, and then personalized patient care. And personalized means that each patient is different, but there's also something more in depth here, and that is pharmacogenomics, right? And pharmacogenomics is the study of how the distinctive genome of a patient will affect how that person will respond or not respond to certain medications. And so if we already know that people with a particular genetic profile, do not metabolize this drug effectively, in other words, they cannot break it down, then we know that that's a medication that we would not use in that patient. And of course, we have to do the testing ahead of time to know that. And this is why some pharmacists specialize in pharmacogenomics. And it's also why we have a pharmacogenomics thread. I call it a thread. It goes throughout our curriculum, because we want you to be able to practice pharmacy when you graduate from our program. We don't want you to feel like, I didn't really learn anything in school. We want you to be exposed to as much as possible, so that when you encounter it as a pharmacist or as a pharmacy resident, I'll talk about that a little bit later, or as a fellow doing a postgraduate fellowship, I'll talk about that a little bit later as well, that it's not a surprise to you. So we want to front load you with a lot of information, not just the basics, but, actually pharmacogenomics is becoming the basics, because it is the practice of pharmacy going forward. So I just want to mention that, but the key is personalized patient care. And I mentioned that before, that the patient is at the center. We are accredited by the American, the Accreditation Council for Pharmacy Education. in Chicago. And any pharmacy school that graduates students has to have this accreditation. So we have that accreditation. We just had a site visit not too long ago, and we're compliant with all 25 standards. And we're really excited because this is just, something that we want to make sure that our program is a quality program. The entire institute is accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, which is WASC, or the WASC Senior College and University Commission. So if you ever see the initials WSCUC, that's the same thing as WASC. It's just saying senior college. It's like a higher division because it's not the division of community colleges, which is another level. So that's number one, because when you're coming here, our PharmD program is 4 years, and it's going to take you 4 years to complete 159 credit hours. Now, I know there's lots of you, you're probably doing the math in your heads right now, and you're saying, wow, that's a lot of units per semester. And that's right. You're pretty much taking 18 to 20 units per semester. That's really what it comes out to be, essentially. And actually, we started a newer curriculum this year. I'm really excited to talk about that. And we actually figured out a way to decrease the number of units just a little bit. So instead of 161.5, it's now 159 credit hours. And that 159 credit hours is over 4 years. And it includes all of your didactic courses. So didactic courses are classes that are in a classroom setting, right? And we're remote right now for that portion of our curriculum. We're remote for the didactic setting right now due to COVID, but normally we have it in classrooms and students are in teams, right? It also includes, a number of hours for your introductory pharmacy practice experiences. That's part of the experiential component. So pharmacists cannot only just know, but they have to know how to do, right? And we have to know how to do, we have to demonstrate competency. In other words, part of the goal of our program is not only to teach you about the practice of pharmacy, but to ensure that you're able to do it. And so we have a number of exercises throughout the entire curriculum that ensure that you have plenty of experience taking care of patients, showing patients how to use a glucometer, explaining how to take maybe to utilize an inhaler for asthma, how to take a blood pressure, how to do a diabetic foot exam, how to give immunizations. We do immunization training in the first year of the program. That is one of the first major things that we do in our PharmD program. The first year students have just completed their immunization training. And so now they're prepared and they're ready to start giving immunizations. Our second, third, and fourth year students have been giving immunizations. So they've been giving flu shots. Now some of them are helping administer the COVID vaccine, and they're doing it under the supervision of our faculty. So they're not off on their own giving people shots. They are doing it under the auspices of our school and our faculty supervision. And the faculty who supervise them are pharmacists who are licensed, who also have the immunization training. You have introductory pharmacy practice experience. I mentioned that. And where it says 8 credit hours, that's really a little deceptive. It's not 8 hours. It's actually about 8 units, but actually it takes several semesters and you'll get more than 200 hours of actual contact time. And then 42 credit hours of the advanced pharmacy practice experiences. This is your last year of pharmacy school, and it pretty much involves you're out at your clinical sites 40 hours a week, and you're there. You call in, you Zoom in to take a few tests and that sort of thing on every 3rd Friday, and do review sessions. And that capstone is what I'm talking about. And we do a board review to prepare you for the North American Pharmacy Licensure Exam, or the NAPLEX. But the last year, after you finish the 3 didactic years, you're out there in the field applying your skills, learning. You're getting to meet other pharmacists. And we're hopeful that it gives you enough experiences so that when you graduate, you either know where you'd like to apply for a job, or you've already applied, or you've decided to continue your education through a postgraduate experience. Was there a question? And I'm going through the slides, but I just want to pause a little bit because I just want to allow for it. I know I tend to just talk, but I want you to feel free to jump in at any time. And Lexi Beer is monitoring, I think, the chat, so she will let me know when I need to stop. But anybody at any time, feel free. So because I live this program. We started our Doctor of Pharmacy program in 2014, and our first group of students graduated in 2018. And we have one of our graduates who is now a vice president in that 2018 class. This is 2021. He's a vice president with the California Pharmacists Association. And he's not exactly your average student, but it still is pretty impressive for somebody to be out of pharmacy school for a couple of years and to have a role as a vice president. And what I really like about it, more than the fact that he's a vice president, is the fact that he's still very involved in our program. And this is one of the things that I like to offer for our students and our prospective students, that our alums are involved and they give back. And they are very concerned. They love our program. They feel that it prepared them. And when you come to various events, the visit days and a number of things, we often have either a student section and or an alumni section. So you can talk to them yourself and see what their experience was like and what their recommendations are. So, please, take advantage of that. I think you get a very different perspective. Yes, I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs. I'm supposed to know how many units the classes are and all that. But to know what the experience is like, I really would encourage you to come to either the summer programs or to, see if you can, if there's some way we can connect you with our alums or our current students. We'd really be happy to do that. I would highly recommend it because it really gives you a different perspective. This slide is pretty much another way of saying the last slide. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just breaking it out between didactic, which is primarily classroom, and the clinical year, which is primarily out in hospitals, nursing homes. Sometimes students are at laboratories, depending on what they're doing. Sometimes they're at a company like Pfizer or Amgen, because we have rotations through Amgen and Pfizer. Sometimes they're at a Save-On, a CVS or Rite Aid. Sometimes they're at a pharmacy where there's maybe one pharmacy owner, or we have some pharmacists who are affiliated with KGI who own their own small chains of pharmacy. So the chains of pharmacies where you have more than one pharmacy and that person, either an owner or a company, a group of people owns it. And so there are a number of individuals who are very engaged in our program who own chains of pharmacy. They own their own number of pharmacies. So if you're interested in the business aspect of pharmacy practice, those individuals have a lot to share. We also have a great partnership with Walgreens. Walgreens has been one of our major supporters, not only for events like our white coat ceremony, where the new students get their white coats, or our commencement, but they partnered with us and they provided some scholarships for our students based on diversity. And they're also very interested in having students come to their sites. And even those students who want to learn a little bit more and want to know a little bit about the business aspect, right? So yes, there's the pharmacy aspect, the numbers of prescriptions and all that, treating the patient. But then there's also the business aspect, more the corporate aspect. And our partners there, one of the executives said he'd really love to get to the point where he has students who would have that level of interest, and it would be a special rotation for them. So in this document here, in this slide, we have the 3 didactic years, and you'll see the first thing says reads core and certificate courses. The core classes are ones that everybody takes. It's a subset of the 159 units. It's not all of the units, it's most of those units. The certificate courses are almost like they're electives, and you get to select what area you'd like to specialize in. Now, everybody has to select a certificate, so it's not optional, right? But you can select a certificate either in health information technology, which has to do with a lot of electronic health records and information management for patients and health systems. Another choice is healthcare management, something like I talked about before, where you'll find out all the details about, the inventory that you need to keep and sort of like the business operations of pharmacy and how to manage organizations and that sort of thing from a pharmacy perspective, and health outcomes research, which is really health economic and outcomes research, which really looks at, if we give, all of our patients this drug, we could give them a better drug for this, we'll get better outcomes. And the price might be a little bit higher, but we're going to have to make that call because it's for the benefit of the patient. Medication therapy outcomes, which is kind of the traditionals where you just learn more about medications, but you specialize in other areas within that. So you can take more classes in psychiatric pharmacotherapy, geriatric pharmacotherapy, which is my expertise, critical care, which are your ICU patients, your emergency room patients, that's the critical care. Nutrition is another aspect of it. And then there's another one in palliative care and oncology, that were patients with oncologic, with cancer, how we would manage them. And then of course, other courses in cardiology, etc. You will get a cardiology course anyway in the core curriculum, but the next cardiology course that you can specialize in has, it's much more in-depth. And one of our faculty members who has special certification in cardiology teaches that. But you're still not just in the classroom all that time. It's primarily didactic, but you will have an industry experience. I mentioned Pfizer, Amgen, Becton Dickinson, Allergan. Those are pharmaceutical companies that are developing new drugs or they need reports done. Medical and clinical affairs, a lot of communication. You will have that in your first year. This is actually one of the things that we include for our students at the first year because
I don't.
Hello? Hi.
Was John supposed to give me an invoice?
You have a question? Okay.
I think it was someone that just needed music.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So you'll have that experience, and we usually have field trips for that. We usually go to the company, so you get a sense of what it's like. You get to meet a lot of people. And then, of course, I already mentioned our introductory experiential experiences. Those occur in the second and third years of your program. So at the end of the first year, you'll start your community rotation. In the middle of the second year, you'll do the senior care. And then in the third year, you'll do health system, which is sort of like going to Kaiser's, going to hospitals, because those are health systems. There's the inpatient aspect, there's an ambulatory care aspect. And then you'll have, based on a certificate, one of the 4 certificates that I mentioned, you'll have a rotation based on that. And in your clinical year, you end up with 7 experiences, and 2 of them are based on your, on the elective that you select, whichever certificate you decide to take. So that's basically the structure. I typically have students who want to know, like, well, what are the actual classes? So here they are. So for P1, I put them into columns. P1, and we're pretty much fall, spring. If we have anything during the summer, it's usually the experiential parts of it. So it doesn't conflict with class time. You have your pharmacy therapeutics classes here, which are primarily health systems. So your first pharmacy therapeutics class is going to be really an introduction to pharmacy practice. That's number 1. And then the second one, we're going to go ahead and start with endocrinology, which includes diabetes, it includes thyroid, it includes the entire endocrine system. Anything that goes wrong with your adrenal glands, we talk about that and the management of that from a pharmacy perspective. So those are in the first year of the program. The recitation is more like a workshop, and it is a review of everything that you're learning in the therapeutics section. We also do a clinical skills. It's where you're going to learn how to give immunizations, take blood pressures, monitor heart rate, screen people for diabetes, use an otoscope to look in someone's ears, what you're looking for, because patient assessment is a huge part of pharmacy practice. And then we also have the comprehensive foundation, pharmacy law and ethics, calculations. We have a lot of those courses, a little bit of pharmacy, history of pharmacy as well. And then our introduction to industry. And we have professional development throughout the first and second years. And so this is how to keep yourself, in a professional standpoint, how to write a CV, how to write a cover letter, how would you interview? What are your strengths? We do strengths finders. We also do the Myers-Briggs type indicator so that you know more about yourself and your if you want to network or connect with somebody. And then our students are extremely active in professional student organizations. They are very much engaged, and that's part of professional development. The P2 year is really much a repeat of the P1 year, except that this is where you also get your first pharmacy management course and informatics. Everybody gets those two courses. We want everybody to be exposed to it. And so there is exposure to the HCM or healthcare management certificate experience is in that pharmacy management course. We get to preview it. And the HIT certificate is previewed in the informatics course. The MCA or medical and clinical affairs certificate is previewed in the introduction to industry course. And the MTO is pretty much all the therapeutics classes. That's just pretty much what MTO is about. And you notice that you just start taking more therapeutics classes, you continue with professional development, and then we add on more experiential education. So by the time you get to the third year, it's when you actually start taking your certificate courses. And it's usually an exciting time because students use this time to figure out which faculty they get to know better, who can write them a letter of recommendation. It's very important to do that. Another thing that we do in the pharmacy program is that students, when you come in, you'll be assigned a faculty mentor. And the faculty mentor will have a team, and you're on that team. And the pharmacy faculty member will be available to you for any questions. If you need tutoring, you would talk to that person. That person will help connect you to our division of student affairs. And of course, I'm always available, but we really want to have the high touch, hands-on experience with our students. And we do that from day one. We do it from day one with our intern fairs and intern days. We do it with our interview days. You'll get to know us. And it's one of the things I like so much about this program. The program where I graduated from pharmacy school many years ago, there were 150 students in my class. I think that I might not have ever talked to a couple of people in the whole 4 years. And at that school, it's only more students. Now it's up to almost 200 students in that school. And so that personal touch is something that we really like. Right now, our entry-level class is just under 50 students. The first class, the last class is just in. We really like to aim between maybe 55 to 60 some odd students. But you'll have an opportunity to know your colleagues and to know the faculty. And we really take it seriously. And it's one of the things I think is distinctive about our program, in addition to the certificates. And so here's the same thing, just another layout, because I'm sure someone says, well, what's in the fall? What's in the spring? This is kind of what it looks like for first year, second year, and third year. And these are primarily those classes that are the therapeutics classes. And the reason why I'm highlighting these is because there are high numbers of units with these classes. So this cardiology class is 6 units. This nephrology unit class is 4 units. This infectious disease class is 7 units. They're very important classes. So these are sort of like the intense classes. I mean, they're all important, but these are the ones that you really need to understand and really do well in, because it's the core of pharmacy practice. And everybody takes all of those classes. Now, I already talked a little bit about the certificates. I'm going to keep an eye on my time here. And there are the 4. There's health information technology, that's HIT. Healthcare management is HCM. MCA is Medical and Clinical Affairs, and Medication Therapy Outcomes is MTO. And so in your third year of the School of Pharmacy, you'll take 9 units of electives that are classroom electives that are specific. They're only offered in your particular certificate. And they are in addition to the classes that I've already talked about. And then you'll have 1 certificate elective experience. So we like to send you out someplace to meet other people in that field. You'll have a chance to work on projects, that sort of thing. So that happens in your P3 year. And then in your P4 year, you'll spend 12 weeks that on clinical experiences. That's 2 rotations. Our rotations are 6 weeks each, that are specific. And this is really important because it helps to give you work experience before you graduate. That's why we do it. So that when you apply for, let's say, a job and they say, have you had any experience with health information technology? You say, yes, I did my certificate in that. And I've got, I worked at this one place. We had a student last couple of years ago who got accepted to a program at Harvard Beth Israel Health Informatics Center, and had to go to Cambridge, Massachusetts to do that. And we were extremely proud of him because it was very competitive. And they only had 1 student in the whole United States they selected. So again, he's not the average student. He's a really good student. I don't want to say that anybody can do it. He can, but he had to do a lot to qualify for it. But it gave him, a level of expertise that he could use later on when he was job hunting. He used it to get a particular residency, which is a postgraduate educational experience, because he had this experience. We had the same thing with the student in the MCA certificate. So she wanted to go to a certain place and she wanted to have all of her experience early. And so she was successful. And so now she is a fellow at Rutgers in New Jersey. So we're really proud, but we will work with you as well. So if you have any career aspirations or something you really want to do, you can talk to anybody about it. You can come talk to us and say, I really want to do this. How can the program help me? We are very interested in that personal touch. It's one of the things that we're excited about at KGI. And so it looks like this. This is kind of the timeline. And I always put this together because people always want to know, when do I pick it? When do I get to know what I'm going to select? You have time to decide. In other words, after you've had all of the classes that I mentioned that are based on the certificate, that are the ones that everybody takes, the informatics course, the pharmacy management class that everybody takes in the second year, then you'll get a chance to do the selection. Our P2 students just selected last month in January what they want to do for the next 2 years. So they have selected their various courses that they want to have. And we are now we're down here, even though they are not going to their clinical rotations next year, but we have to start setting those clinical rotations up now to make sure that students get what they were looking for. So as I said, you don't have to wait till you get to the third year. Start talking to us early and say, I'm really interested in this or that or the other. So I know I've talked a lot about classrooms and all that sort of thing. And I would encourage you to find out from students what it's like. But we do a lot of activities in the classroom. Our entire institution is committed to active learning. So, we try to get away from passive learning, kind of like what I'm doing right now, where I'm talking and you're listening. But we really want for you to do, breakout rooms, teamwork, worksheets, quizzes, assignments. We have some classes with labs, and so we like for students to do that. Recitations, as I mentioned, is when you go over cases about patients and you role play. You are the pharmacist, or we might ask you to be the patient, or we might ask you to be the child that we're talking to about your medication and how important it is for you to take your insulin if you have type 1 or juvenile onset diabetes. So, you get experience doing that. Simulation, I'm excited about. We have a sim man. I don't know, we were supposed to name this thing. It looks like the mannequins that you work on for CPR, except it's an entire body. It's not just the torso. And he blinks, he cries, he does a lot of other things. And if you give him the wrong drugs, the computer will say that it's now an emergency and you need to call the paramedics. So we love using that, and the students love it, and it gives them a sense of what it's like. We do a lot of journal clubs, looking at journal articles, having the students present it. We're heavy on presentations, and one of our hallmark assignments, activities, is the Shark Tank. And so if you've seen the television show Shark Tank, we have our own version of Shark Tank. And I'm really excited as part of the informatics class. So everybody does this in their second year, and you work on a team and you present your idea. And at KGI, we're hands-on. I don't remember a Shark Tank where the president wasn't one of the people listening to the presentation and asking questions. And we select leaders from the industry. So they are experts who are listening to your ideas, and it gives you a chance to see what it's like to pitch an idea and to present it and to respond to questions that are not always easy. So we're really excited about this because it was an innovation that it prepares our students on so many levels. Another thing you'll get to do in that class is you have to develop your own elevator speech, right? Elevator speech, you're in the elevator with someone, you've got this much time to tell them about who you are, what you're doing, and why they should talk to you. And every student develops an elevator speech, and it's critiqued so that you can fine tune it and perfect it, because we're very big on networking and collaboration. And so you have to be prepared to do it. The objective structured clinical examinations are called OSCEs, and it's really much a role play. You would be the pharmacist, and one of the faculty members like myself would be the patient. And you would demonstrate to me how to take some medications, or what I should do if I'm having a certain problem. And you do these every semester. And your last semester before you go on your rotations, we give you a really complicated one. We give you one where you have a patient who was given the wrong medication, and it's because the doctor ordered it and nobody caught the error, but you caught it. How do you talk to the patient? How do you talk to the patient's family? How do you correct the problem? And how do you talk to the doctor? So it's sort of this multifaceted challenge, because that's real life. You know, real life does not exist in a vacuum, and you will have situations that are a little challenging. There's an ethical component to it. There's an interprofessional component to it. And then of course, there's a pharmacy practice component. So we really like to focus on that. And to prepare you for that, we do interprofessional education. We have contracts and agreements with UC Riverside School of Medicine, with their medical students participate. Azusa Pacific participates with their nursing students. Cal Baptist lets their PA students come. There are a number of community colleges that have their paramedic students show up. And I've been at a table being a facilitator for, there's at my table some pharmacy students, medical students, nursing students at different levels, like some nursing students who are at the master's level, nursing students that are just coming in, paramedic students, PAs, and it's really great. And I don't give them the answer. You and your team have to figure out the answer. I'm just the facilitator. I'll just say, well, you know, have you thought about how well a person can breathe if they are also using a CPAP machine? And so I just pose questions and you come up with the answers. And so we've loved this. We've also extended it to our genetics students and with the Masters of Public Health students at CGU, and that's Claremont Graduate University. They've done a number of things. They've done something that we call, I used to call it by the wrong name. It's actually called the Last Straw. It's a game, it's a board game like Monopoly. But I used to call it the game of life, because you roll the dice and you land on the square. Oh, I lost my job and my child needs medication. What do I do? Who do I talk to? And it's kind of a role play from a board game. That's one thing you do. And then another thing that we've done before is what we call a parliamentary debate. And if you've ever been up late at night and you're watching C-SPAN or PBS or something like that, and you watch the British Parliament at work, and how one person gets up and states their case, and you've got the side that's for that person and the side that's against them. And you have to debate and prove your points. And it's usually an ethical dilemma. And that one I really like a lot, because it really helps us to for students to work together and to see things from another perspective. And the last thing that we do as well with the problem-based learning is we learn about the skill sets of other health professionals. So physicians, nurses, etc. So this is pretty much what I said before. It's kind of a repeat slide. It just breaks out experiential education, a little bit different format here, where it just kind of identifies which rotations everybody takes and which rotations only you take with your certificate. So this last line down here at the bottom, 5 standard rotations, everybody takes these 5, pharmacy practice, ambulatory care, general medicine. There's a few of them, there's 5 of them, and then you take 2 certificate rotations. But everybody needs to have 7. And here are the class numbers that you can see when you register. You should have numbers like this on your transcript, right? And here are the required ones: advanced community practice, health system practice, ambulatory care, acute care, and then direct patient care. Those are the main ones. And then all of the electives have these numbers. So there's many electives, and you get to pick and choose. Things that happen outside the classroom, as I mentioned earlier, are things like our introduction to industry, which is kind of classroom, but there's field trips associated with it. Some of the students get involved in research projects. A lot of our students do leadership projects. We have something called CAPS Lead that a lot of our students are working on right now that combines kind of a research project with leadership as students. Immunization certificate training, everybody does that. Smoking cessation, tobacco and smoking cessation, I do that training. I'm teaching it right now to the P1 students. That's my class section next Wednesday. Our students are very involved in professional and student organizations, as am I. So I'm the president of my local pharmacist association, the Greater Los Angeles Pharmacists Association. And in our meeting on Tuesday night, I invited our KGI students to present to the USC students and the West Coast students the projects that are being done at KGI. And so this is the kind of thing that they're really excited to talk about. And the other students want to help out on those projects. So you get to also have some interaction with other pharmacy students. There's an internship fair, a career fair, internships, and then all of the co-curricular activities. As I mentioned before, our students are involved in administering COVID vaccines. They're involved in COVID testing. They're involved in flu shots. These happy alumni, some of them here are, really great. Susan Schroeder, the first person there, now works for a Kaiser, I believe, Ontario. I believe she works at. She was our commencement speaker in 2019. Just a fabulous person who really ran with it. These are our smiling students who won a competition, and they are a mix. Some of them are P3 students, some of them are P2 students. So you don't have to wait to P4. And then the last student here, the last alum here, is now in Chicago. He's in health management, and he's helping manage a health system in Chicago. And I love talking about it because the future is bright. The admissions office has given us a link. I'm sure you have this for a virtual tour. I think that you should take advantage of it. I think they have other things planned. I don't want to tip their hand with their planning about seeing campus. I'll just say it like that. But you won't be bored. It's not just work in the classroom. We want to develop the whole student. And as President Schuster says, we don't want this to be a transactional relationship where you pay tuition, we give you, a program. We want to be transformational. And we want you to feel in your life like you have many other opportunities as a result of coming to KGI, and you get more value than just what's in the classroom. If you are interested in being at the cutting edge, you want to be in healthcare, and you don't really know all what the future holds, I really advise you to apply. When I graduated from pharmacy school, all I wanted to do was get out and get a job because I had the student loans, I had all these things, and I was getting tired of school. But in a very short period of time, I found myself being an adjunct faculty member at another institution. Then I ended up being full-time. Then I ended up being an academic administrator. I ended up getting involved in some clinical research and with a double-blind study with the National Institutes of Health, working on interprofessional teams. working with MPH students on writing grants to start, what do they call those things? It's not a fair, we combine it with a health fair. It's a farmer's market at some of the local churches. So you can get involved in community activities. So if you're interested in any of those things and some other things, or you want to go purely scientific, we have a lot of researchers who really want that. And so our program provides you with the breadth and the depth of training to be competitive in the job market. And we expect this. This is some of our outcomes that we're really looking for. And here are some of the success stories. I mentioned Susan Schroeder earlier. I mentioned Rajan, who's the VP. Armando was the other person you saw on the picture at the end. I said it's in Chicago. Kim is actually completed a residency at USC Norris Cancer Hospital. And in the residencies, they usually get more specialized. So she did a 1-year residency in Wisconsin, and then she did the second residency was at USC. We really want our students to get finished on time, so we don't have students lagging behind years and years. And we really work with our students. We have a residency boot camp to prepare students for the postgraduate experience if they want that. Dean Tyrell works with the students who want to do a fellowship. We have our own fellowship program, but you can apply for other fellowship programs across the country. And yeah, we were just really excited. I mean, this past year, we had our largest class, we had 81 students who graduated. And so we have a number of individuals who are pursuing the residencies. And so those are very competitive because they only have, not all students apply, but they don't really have enough sites for all the students who are going to apply. And then I want to include some students who are still enrolled. Casey, in her first year, hit the ground running. And they asked her, they were so impressed with her that they asked her to do an internship. And so they flew her to Chicago and she stayed there for a little while and got some work experience. Richard Kale, same thing, but he's really involved in San Diego and he's definitely prepared to move forward when he graduates in 2022, which is a while from now, a little bit, this next year, to complete his experiences. And as I mentioned about COVID-19, we are looking to start we've done some of our students have been immunizations with other organizations. The Claremont colleges, actually, the Student Health Center has applied to be able to administer vaccines. And so later this spring, I understand that the Student Health Center will be working with the pharmacy faculty and students to administer COVID vaccine to the Claremont community. And so this is my contact information. I really appreciate your spending time speaking with us today. And I know there are things in the chat. I just ignored the chat so I could get done. But at this time, I'll field any questions or comments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Orum. There's just a couple questions in the chat. And then, of course, anyone feel free to unmute yourself and let us know if you have another question. But Sky, I hope I'm getting your name right, asked if you'd be willing to share what school you attended for your pharmacy program.
Oh, I want you to come to KGI. See, I was too old to start KGI's program. I went to University of Southern California, USC. That was my school. And as I mentioned earlier, pharmacy education is worth more than its weight in gold. It is really more than just a degree program. It's really a starting point for your career. And you can make it whatever you want. I mean, you really have a lot of opportunities. And I just happened to go the academic route, but I've worked in, retail. I've worked in long-term care. I've worked for, nursing homes and that sort of thing. And I've also worked in inpatient in a hospital. So you can't go wrong. I wish that I never spoke. I only spoke to one faculty member at USC because there were just so many students in our class. And I remember one time I ran into a faculty member in the cafeteria and I said, hi, I'm in your class. And he says, yes, I see you. As you can see, I wear glasses, so my vision's never been great. So I had to sit at the front of this huge lecture hall. We don't have a lecture hall like that. We have classrooms that we can configure into teams. So if I had to do it over again, I'd come to KGI. I'll say that. Thank you for that question.
And then Kelly asked two questions. I think I answered one, but you might give another answer. So the first was, will there be exposure to all of the specializations before having to choose one?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll take that question. So you get those, everybody takes certain classes. So that introduction to industry that's in the P1 year, it's we call it the PHAR 370 course. Everybody takes that. And so that's where you kind of learn if you really want to go to medical clinical affairs. That's where you get the sense of that. And then in the second year, you'll take the healthcare, the pharmacy management course. That will help you to determine whether or not you want to do the healthcare management. And you'll also at the same time do the health information, the pharmacy informatics course, which will help you to decide about that. The medication therapy outcomes is all of those therapeutics classes. So you will be inundated with what that's about. But I want to just say that we've offered those, and those are areas that we think are really important for students because they represent, we did some research, market research on the job market and where the jobs are and what other skills you'll need to have as a pharmacist to be successful to apply for a job in the pharmaceutical industry. But as I mentioned, you can make it what you want. The student that I shared that is now a vice president, we did not have a residency or we did not have a program in leadership, right? Because that's what that is. And so executive leadership. So he met with us and he came up with ideas. He started projects. The school supported him. And so that prepared him to be for a residency with the American Pharmacists Association in Washington, D.C., where he got a little policy experience under his belt. And he came back to California and joined the California Pharmacists Association. And he's been promoted. He came back as a director, and now he's a VP. Not bad for, like I said, a couple of years out of school. So you can specialize in other things. These are sort of the top four that we deliver. Mm-hmm.
Kelly, would you want to ask your next question? I'm afraid I might misunderstand a little bit. The question is about specializations again, sometimes being done in
yes.
It says a PGY.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So did you want to articulate that, Kelly, or do you want me to just jump in?
Oh, you can just jump in.
Okay, great. I appreciate the question because there are specializations that are done after pharmacy school. Usually the PGY 1, that's the first year, it tends to be more general. So you can do it in ambulatory care or critical care or something like that. It's usually very general. So I mentioned the one student, Kim Nguyen, who did the residency in like a general medicine residency in Wisconsin. And then she wanted to specialize even more. And she did a PGY 2 for oncology. We have an oncology course, but we don't have a whole certificate in oncology. So yes, you still get these specializations as part of your PharmD degree. And when you walk across the stage and graduate, you get 2 certificates. You get your diploma for your PharmD, and you also get a certificate that says that you've completed the training in either medication therapy outcomes, health information technology, healthcare management, or medical and clinical affairs. But what you're referring to is true. It's after you graduate. We want to give our students some options before they get to that point. And I would say that simply because you do one certificate doesn't mean you're stuck for life, right? So it does not mean that if you do a health information technology certificate, that you could not then move to general medicine. Because you can, because you have all of the prerequisite, you have all of the courses for your PharmD degree. So you still would be able to move around, but students usually have a career in mind. And I mean, I've run into students or former students, alums at pharmacy conferences where they're actually on the stage presenting. And I go up to them afterwards and shake hands with them and say, hey, you remember me? I was your faculty member that taught you about the top 300 drugs or something like that. And they'll laugh about it. And some of them have done, international fellowships. We have a student who's now, a former student who's graduated, He did half of his fellowship in Switzerland with a number of with a pharmaceutical company. So yeah, so I think Andrea says, what makes KGI different from other PharmD programs? Some of the things that I've talked about, it's similar to a lot of PharmD programs in that it's 4 years. So it's going to take 4 full years. Some programs are 3 years, ours is 4. We wanted to give the students a chance to do some other things besides just go to class all the time. And in the 3-year program, you have very short breaks. But you have the P1 year, between P1 and P2, you have a summer. Between P2 and P3, you have about half a summer. And then between P3 and P4, there is no summer. You just jump right into P4. So it was rigorous enough, but one of the things that does differentiate us is the certificates. There are a few other schools that offer certificates, but we've done it for quite some since the beginning of our program. It's not an add-on. It was part of our initial plan for our program to make sure that we provide this to our students. And I would say the other thing is the personal touch. I think that a lot of pharmacy schools want to do it, but if they are, have so many students, it's a little harder. I think that we really make good on that and really connecting students to, other professional organizations and other professionals and really working very closely with our students. So I would say those would be the differentiating factors in our program. Oh, thank you, Andrea. Yeah, we do a lot of teamwork. And so you, as a student, you'll do a lot of teamwork too, I'll tell you. So, because we want you to know how to work together as a team. Yes, there are some individual exams and individual assessments, but this is part of our culture at KGI is, innovation, collaboration, ethics, those are part of our values. And so, the admissions team, they tell me what I need to do and I show up and go, right? Because we're working together. We have the same objective in mind. They're working at from one standpoint, I'm working from the academic standpoint. So yes, we really do admire the team approach and you can see it throughout the organization.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Orum. We're just right about here at 1. So I did share a couple links here for you. There's a link to the PharmD program website, as well as our summer program, the PrEP program. The summer program is going to be online and it's free. So please do join that if you're interested in exploring more. But the application information for both programs is on the website and you can follow up with us with any questions. Thank you for the questions you did have. And thank you again, Dr. Orum, for sharing your time and expertise on the program. Hopefully everyone appreciates it. And I'll also share the admissions email address right now. You're welcome to email them with any questions, as well as myself. So there's lots of folks that you can talk to. We're all happy to help you in any way we can as you explore pharmacy, to explore the PrEP program and think about your next move. Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Have a good afternoon. Bye.